Savage Dragon 53 from September of 1998. This cover is kind of a classic comic trope of unexpected or surprising characters bursting through the cover of your favorite comic. This group of weirdos rudely breaking up the solo She-Dragon cover. This is the new Brute Force, and we'll get to them later. But first, the credits. Eric Larson, writer and artist. Chris Eliopoulos, letterer. Ruben Rude, colorist. And Josh Eckhorn, assistant crack whore. So this splash page features members of Brute Force, max damage, punching major battle here, and then Mo Muscle leaping at him. These dudes are just kicking each other's asses. And the only other time we've seen Brute Force was way back in issue 27 for like a one-page gag. But now they're working demolition, using their strength to kind of knock down walls and knock down buildings. But it's lunchtime. So they're eating sandwiches and just lamenting their lack of a lucrative government contract. Meanwhile, back at Chicago PD, the headquarters there, William and Rita are announcing their marriage, or at least their engagement. They still need a wedding. And while everyone's congratulating them, Chris Robinson and Alex are apologizing to each other, maybe rekindling a romance, while She-Dragon looks on while they embrace each other. You know, She-Dragon used to date Chris, so this kind of pisses her off. Meanwhile, Zeus wonders aloud where his son is in this splash page that looks really familiar. So I've got issue 51 right here, so let's see. Yeah, the next page, yeah, it's exactly the same page, same word balloon. Even the next page, actually, let's check this out. Yeah, so the page after that also borrows the same layout as issue 51. This time Zeus is asking Atlas to send an army of the gods to go rescue his son Hercules, who's recovering from getting his freaking arms ripped off last issue. So pretty nice work there, guys. Then let's see. She-Dragon runs into Bludgeon, and he's asking her for a favor, which she accepts. Now back to Brute Force. They've got the government gig they've been wanting, but you know, you had to know that wasn't going to go well for them when I said that this is the new Brute Force on the cover. So what happened to the old Brute Force? Well, they're sent by the government to Radiation Island, which is inhabited by this gigantic radioactive monster who just snatches up Brute Force and then starts chomping on them like popcorn. Luckily, the superheroes don't really sit well with the monster, and he explodes, leaving max damage as the only surviving member, mourning the loss of his teammates while the radiation is scrubbed off in the shower, hoping that he can still find some work. So apparently Hercules has had his arms reattached and he's healing. You know, he's a pretty tough son of a bitch. This is the last issue here, but he had his arms just violently ripped off. That would kill most people. But not only does he survive, he's going to get his arms back. So yeah, he's a pretty tough son of a gun. And him and Jennifer have always had kind of a flirty relationship in their appearances together. So while they're talking about a rescue team that the government is putting together to go save the hostages on Godworld, that's what these shady guys in the shadowy room are talking about. Meanwhile, William gets the jump on his ex-convict brother, Ralph. This is the guy who sent Rita and William into hiding because they were afraid he would try and kill them. Now, with some newfound strength and confidence, William confronts his brother. And even though he takes Rita hostage, William is able to lift that motherfucker over his head, and then he tosses him off the roof and puts his ass into the Chicago River. Not too bad. You know, William always wears these cool shades, but in this panel, we see underneath those sunglasses, his eyes are very green, while Rita is asking aloud what has gotten into him. So we got tryouts for the new Brute Force over here. Beast Boy and Feasel are trying out for the new team. We haven't seen them since Beast Boy got knocked into low Earth orbit in issue 49. But we're also introduced to Metal Man and Water Lad and Wood Boy and Bubble Boy. All just kind of lame characters here for some jokes at the expense of like the equally lame Legion of Superheroes and the Bouncing Boy and all that kind of crap. Even Max Damage, who is a goofball character himself, he can't take these guys seriously. However, that's not the last time that we see these guys. Let's jump ahead to issue 208 of Savage Dragon. 17 years later, they make the team, man. Max Damage reunites Brute Force in this backup from 2015. And Metal Man and Water Lad and Wood Boy and Bubble Boy they've made the team. And they help defeat the bad guy. They actually win this fight. You know, their powers weren't completely useless after all. So now this little diversion sent me down a rabbit hole because while researching these goofballs, I discovered that Bubble Boy had 2 other appearances before this issue, and I had no recollection of this guy. So using the Savage Dragon wiki, you know, it's a very thorough online source for Savage Dragon information, and it lists issue 24 as Bubble Boy's first appearance, and 26 as another appearance of Bubble Boy. So I was like, what the hell? Anyway, so I dug these books out. So let's try and find this asshole, right? I look everywhere, man. No dice. I look at the legal indicia, and sure enough, Bubble Boy's name is in the credits there, along 100 other characters. So there's so many little scribbled villains in this thing. There's like these little panels and just guys in the background, page after page of that. And then I run across this asshole. Is he Bubble Boy? If so, he's like really off model, so I don't think that can be him. Now, the only thing I could think is that maybe he's one of these small, like these are sprinkled throughout the book, these kind of small little face panels. I'm looking at all these things. I cannot find them. And then finally, towards the end here, I see the cut off bleeding edge of this little panel. I'm like, could that be him? And so I go to issue 26, and, you know, same thing. I cannot find Bubble Boy, but I do see one of those tiny panels with these characters on it, and I'm thinking, yeah, could that be Bubble Boy? That little sliver of a panel. Could these 2 slivers of a panel be the Bubble Boy that we're looking for? Anyway, this is such a stupid diversion, man. It cost me a lot of time. I created a Reddit thread trying to confirm my findings on R Savage Dragon. Maybe that will answer this question. Probably just a waste of my time and yours. Was it worth it? So, back to the book here. The All God is back, and he's making proclamations of war. And hell, since I was pulling all these books, I thought, let's take a look at old All God from issue 46 and see if Larson also swiped that one. Close, but not quite. Meanwhile, Amy is breaking into Johnny Redbeard's old place. I like this panel design where kind of the ledge that she's sitting on there is the border of these interior panels. It's kind of a cool layout. Now, for a big reveal, if you're a fucking idiot, yeah, Dragon is alive and inside William Johnson. I'd love to tell you about how back in the day in Larson's childhood comics, William Johnson was the alter ego of the Dragon. But I spent so much goddamn time on Bubble Boy, we'll have to move along here. The new Brute Force heads off on this rescue/suicide mission to Godworld. Looks like Killcat is tagging along. He's excited. And Rock's last words to him before they take off to Godworld is, don't touch anything. We'll see how that pays off. On to Fanatics. First, Larson calls out some dickhead who accused him of stealing his character that he submitted back in the contest from issue 10. And Larson says he destroyed all that shit. And unless you included a self-addressed stamped envelope and got it back, you know, that thing is long gone. And after looking at all these characters trying to find Bubble Boy in these 2 issues, I can confidently tell you that Eric Larson doesn't need any help when it comes to creating characters. He's got a million of them. Most of this is just reaction to issue 51, and Savage, the She-Dragon, is the titular character now. But there's an interesting admission over here where Larson says that he's got the story mapped out through issue 80. So at this point, that would be the next 2 years of comics that he's got plotted through October of 2000. Not too bad. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. We got this pinup here by Larson. And this was actually going to be the original cover to this book, but he decided on the different one here. And you can see where he left the space for where the title would go at the top. It's pretty neat. We've got an Adam Hughes pinup of Officer Alex Wilde. And then another Rapture pinup by Jason Pearson. R.I.P. to both. Now there's another Mega Man double page spread, or Megaton Man double page feature here by Don Simpson. It looks like this is going to be a recurring story for the next few issues. To be continued. And finally, there's Desperate Times by Chris Eliopoulos. The boys go and try and buy some weed, which is noteworthy for an appearance by Jay and Silent Bob. I thought this might be the first appearance of these 2 guys in comics, but apparently the Clerks comic from Oni Press had come out in February of 1998, so that was Jay and Silent Bob's first appearance. But enough of that. Enough of this issue. On to issue 54. And it looks like the dragon is back.